We are live. We are live. How's it going, everybody? How's it going? LSU Odyssey Friday show live here. LSUODYSSEY.COM. Go check out the article we just posted last night, very late last night. Winter workout information came in through us through the last few days, and it was pertinent. It was not just the usual fluff that writers use to fill out this time of year. And that's why you haven't seen so much content from us. We want to get the best to you, and if it's not the best, it's not worth putting it out. And so, a casual show today, but that does not mean that we're not going to have a guest. We are going to have a guest today, Max Tuscano. And that is someone who is become almost a public enemy number one among LSU community for his comments he's made about Brian Kelly, about LSU recruiting, about many things to do with LSU. Their failures in the transfer portal, according to him. And it seems like he's maybe on a different page in a lot of ways than a lot of us. Sherman Wilson, LSU recruiting coordinator, had something to say to him as well. It was a very action-packed moment on Twitter between Tuscano and Sherman Wilson, both kind of trying to stand their ground. And Tuscano continuing to say, hey, I'm an LSU fan. I mean, he continuously says he's an LSU guy. He roots for LSU, but then I continuously see things like this. We'll get this up here and show you this. I mean, you usually are like, oh, okay, well, he's an LSU fan, okay, whatever. But then you see things like this: get his ass, Christian. Get his ass, Christian. Basically rooting against LSU's guy there for his Connecticut guy, which he's a Connecticut guy. That's not really something that's gonna hurt my feelings that he's rooting against. Rooting against an LSU guy in a rep. It's just more of the whole, hey, I'm an LSU fan, but then all we see is negativity. He has said some things that are very interesting about where LSU are at recruiting-wise and things like that. So we have kept receipts, and so we're going to talk to him about some of those comments, give him a fair platform to kind of explain himself, and then also, rebut if we feel that's necessary, or debate or whatever. And then we also, before that takes place, before we get Max on here, we wanted to discuss a lot of variety of topics with LSU right now, because LSU 2024, it's taking shape. That the team is kind of taking shape in a way, and you're seeing some players step up. You're seeing some guys kind of stand out, and you're seeing some interesting chances being taken when you're talking about like SWAT leaders and things like that. We got Max Tuscano in here. Max Tuscano live from Connecticut, right, Max?
I live in DC now. I still got, my family home back in Connecticut that I go back to pretty frequently, but I'm in Washington now.
Okay. So you are in DC. Wow. Okay. So Max hopping all over the place, DC, Connecticut. Max, there has been a lot of you've now, as I said in the intro, I don't know if you heard it. I'm going to say it. Become public enemy number one among LSU's online fan base. Don't you agree?
Well, I mean, not really. I don't think that there's enough. I don't think I have enough of a reach. I don't think that's really that much of a. I don't really think it's that many people. Just because I'm not that important. I don't think I'm important enough to be public enemy number one. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't like to hear certain things that aren't necessarily glowing about where the state of the roster is. at this point in time after the primary portal window. But I mean, look, hey, that's that's up to everybody else to decide. I'm just gonna, whether that's inaccurate.
Here it is. Here it is. Where this is PR. It's tantamount to writing in 2014 that Miles' offense is a testament to their belief in their physicality. Fans deserve media that's going to tell them the truth. It's a bad strategy, and none of their competitors are doing this, which inherently gives them less talent. That is a post Max Tuscano in reference to Glenn West's post where he says LSU has one transfer ranked in the top 25 of SEC portal newcomers, according to 247 Sports. More on the deliberate approach the Tigers took this offseason with the portal and why it's a good thing the program is banking on its development ability. So you're basically saying, I don't buy that. That seems to be is that kind of what I'm getting from you?
Well, yeah, and I not only do I not necessarily buy that, I don't think they buy that. They're going to take more transfers. Like,
yes,
they have, I think, what, 3 scholarship defensive tackles at the moment.
absolutely.
So I think that a lot of people are trying to get ahead of this and say, but by the way, I don't think that Brian Kelly thinks we don't need thinks that LSU doesn't need transfers. Brian Kelly's gone after big names in the transfer portal each of the last couple of years, even though he's, like, for instance, they went after Braden Fisk despite having Mekhi Wingo and Mason Smith returning. They went after Keon Coleman despite having Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors. They understand this. So, I think that people are sort of trying to get ahead of the fact that LSU doesn't have a lot of high-end transfers and saying, "Oh, but they're banking on development." I don't actually think that they're really doing that because they are going to take more transfers. The problem I have is that they aren't necessarily hunting big enough, or at least landing the big fish that they really, really go after. And I think that their transfer approach is very similar to what teams were taking before the one-time transfer exemption, where they were taking a lot of guys that were looking for opportunities to play that couldn't necessarily crack the lineup at their previous spots. And that was a very, very good. And look, I still think it's worth taking some of those guys because it's an opportunity to buy low. But I think what LSU has done at times a little bit is bank starting spots on guys like that. Whereas what a lot of other teams are doing now is using the portal as a way to poach and to hunt and to be a little bit predatory to other rosters, which I think, if you're coming from a smaller school perspective, is very bad. But at the same time, you're seeing schools hunt. You look at what Georgia did when they had a need at running back.
You want to see LSU throw that cash around more. You want to see LSU be like, hey, we're going to go after every big. I mean, here's the thing. I feel like LSU has competed for some of these big names, like you've said. I agree with some of your points as well. I think LSU, their roster has some holes that as I did my roster overview, they can't be overlooked right now. And I feel like LSU may have run themselves out of time to really get those high quality options, as you have kind of pointed out in a way. But I feel your tone and maybe some of your points might be a little exaggerated when you're talking about a recruiting staff and a that has now had the number 1 class for the 2025 group here, and top 5/6th at least for the 2024 class, depending on how they finish with Bussey. Really strong finish for 2023 as well. And then you see this sideline staff. You all right, buddy? There we go. You're good. You see the sideline staff now get the best D-line coach in America, one of the best development coaches in cornerbacks, the defensive backs, with Corey Raymond. You see some of the pieces falling together. You see that the talent is already there on the roster. And maybe LSU really is saying that, hey, we've already got the guys here. Instead of going out and getting 15 transfers like we've done the last 2 years, let's actually develop the guys and pay attention to the guys and give reps to the guys who are already here. Like, do we need to go get another safety when instead we have guys like Ryan Yates who need to be developed, Jordan Allen need to be developed, need to get actual reps back there. Javian Toviano, let alone him if we're going to move him back to safety. So I feel like, okay, I get what you're saying, but I feel like it's a lot of panic as well. And I feel like there's a lot of guys already on LSU's roster who could have made last year's team a CFP playoff contending team, a team that actually would have been in the CFP, considering what our offense was, had Matt House actually made the right personnel decisions.
Well, I mean, there's a couple things to that. I mean, for starters, I think the idea that any team in college football already has enough talent in-house puts you behind. I don't think that for instance, Georgia has that mindset.
I'm not saying that we're set at defensive tackle. I'm not saying we're set at cornerbacks. Let me just say that I've already actually prefaced that with my point saying that LSU's roster is in trouble in those spots. But just going out and throwing money and just, basically like blowing your load all over every single transfer in the portal. I mean, what's that going to do for LSU here?
I mean, I'm sort of confused. I don't really think that LSU needs to build the way Ole Miss builds, because I think they recruit high school at an elite level. They recruit high school at an elite level. They hire staff at an elite level. And on offense, at least at this point, they develop talent at an elite level. But the thing to me is that LSU is so close to building a program that is top 5 to 7 every single year, right? They are doing so much right. But at the same time, I think that the portal and NIL have opened up a talent arms race that if you are not doing everything that your competitors are doing, and that includes developing the guys you have and going out and pursuing upgrades, because it's not necessarily a choice that you have to make. What these other schools are doing is recruiting high school at the same level, retaining at a pretty similar level as well, and getting these guys at the sore spots. I don't think that LSU needs to get everybody at every position, but I think that when they have roster holes, they need to be able to go fill them with extreme quality. And I don't really think that a lot of people find that necessarily objectionable. And now when I go highlight all of the guys, right? When I go highlight Jabbar Muhammad and then this guy and then that guy, I'm not saying LSU needs to get all of them at once.
Yeah.
Because if LSU had gotten, Jabbar Muhammad, I wouldn't have been talking about another guy. I just highlight these guys as.
You mean Jaleel Muhammad, the defensive tackle?
No, right? Jabbar Muhammad, the corner that Oregon got, who is one of the best corners in the country. So when I highlight all of those guys, what it does is it's meant to shine a light on the incredible volume of high quality talent that makes itself available in the modern era. Not necessarily that LSU should take 9 corners in the portal. I think LSU should probably take I think LSU may be in good shape taking 1 if it's like a Jabbar Muhammad quality, or a couple more, because I think they have depth and I think they have bodies. I think they need a guy that they can know is going to be able to go in and play man coverage at a high level in this defense. I think at D tackle, they need to probably take 2 to 3, because I think Jaleel Muhammad is really, really good rotational depth. I think Sean Washington is it last name is Washington, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot of talent. He's very unproven, but he's got a lot of talent. So he's a good guy to have in the chamber. But I think that they need a couple of guys to go with Guillory that we know can do this at a high level. Because if you're wrong, and what the portal allows you to do is know you're not wrong, and dramatically decrease your margin for error and dramatically decrease the amount of things that can go wrong. And so I think what they need to do is not take everybody in the portal. I think they need to build from high school as a sustainable base. And I think that they need to fill their existing needs with elite free agents.
Well, I mean, I don't really see how anyone in the world would argue with what you just said.
I know, that's why I'm very confused.
But then you've got some of these tweets that I just feel like the way you use certain words just set people off, when it feels like when there is a any type of comparison to like Les Miles, it's like immediately you're dissing them, and then you put Miles in this tweet, and it's like, ooh, fans deserve media that's going to tell them the truth. And it also seems like unless you are a member of the media who's willing to just constantly always say LSU is perfect LSU is always, going to be fine with flying colors. It doesn't matter how, if we only have 3 scholarship DTs, then it seems like LSU Nation sometimes will kind of get you with the hammer.
Okay. They're welcome to do that. That's fine.
No, I'm saying that's a sensation that I've experienced myself.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, look, this is part of it, right? And I think that look, this isn't the first time. I got this a lot this summer when I was expressing skepticism about how they planned on using Harold Perkins. I remember when they started talking in press conferences about moving him off the ball. I sounded the alarm. I said, "This is a huge mistake. This is not necessarily his skill set." And he's, I think he needs to be an edge rusher. And a lot of people are like, no, he's going to be a multi-tool. You don't know. What are you talking about? And I was like, all right, just let's wait for the season.
Well,
so
and
it's not the first time.
He was good, like being able to like put out fires and do a lot of different stuff and stuff the stat sheet all over the place. But LSU would have been such a different defense.
Oh God, yeah. I think he would. Like I said this going into the year. Like I think he would have been like a 10 to 15 sack guy if you put it, because his degree of bend and explosiveness and his natural talent as a pure pass rusher off the edge is spectacular. And I will say that the addition of Blake Baker at DC is a godsend for the kid, because like even though I do think he's going to play off the ball in this defense potentially, I think it's a much different role, and I think it's going to be a better taught role, where he really knows what he's doing and is going to be allowed to play fast and play instinctually. So we're going to see him, used potentially in kind of that Devin White kind of way, where he is plugging a lot, he's getting through the line of scrimmage, he's going after the quarterback, and he's moving around in this defense. I think it's a great move. But yeah, I think that was another example of the kind of time I caught the hammer, so to speak. But it's I think I ended up a little vindicated on that one, so I'm not super worried about it.
Well, I mean, for me, it really drew my attention that Sherman Wilson would even respond. Like, I mean, I've had a dialogue with Sherman Wilson since he's been hired. I love talking to the guy, but you, on the other hand, I'm so shocked that he would not only respond to just a casual tweet of yours, an opinion like that, but like, I mean, he's never done that for anything that I've posted. Like, hey, come at me with something. I mean, I've never written anything that's really been like, hey, LSU are absolute shit, except for when it's come to this defense in the last few years with the Brian Kelly era. That's really been the only thing that we've had to complain about, was how conservative the offense was last year in 2022, and then this last season, how just historically god awful this defense was. Those are pretty much the two things we've had to really be able to complain about under Brian Kelly. Other than that, it's pretty much been smooth sailing. So it's kind of been hard for me to really just criticize left, right, and center. At the same time, I have reported things that a lot of people won't when it comes to LSU, such as the Title IX stuff like that. But if you sometimes I feel like it's almost like a witch hunt type of thing that you just experienced, Max, where the entire LSU nation got out those torches and were coming for you, man. They were out for your blood.
Oh, look, like, here's the thing about the LSU fan base is that the LSU's rival.
I'm an LSU fan as well,
Yeah.
so I felt the emotions curdling through me as well. I'm like, God damn it, Max, what the hell are you doing?
I think that, like, I think it is a symptom of what makes LSU the greatest fan base in the country, right? And I think LSU is, and I mean this in the best possible way, LSU is a fan base that is constantly out for blood, right?
Yes.
This is a fan base that has taken Will Muschamp's words of "you're either a tiger or you're tiger bait" and internalized it to an incredible degree. And I think that the ferocity that sort of drives our fans is what makes Death Valley the hardest place in the country to play, right? And I think that whatever comes therein is part of the experience. And I think that, even when it gets frustrating, and it feels like everybody's after you, you got to know that, like, the torches and the pitchforks are not they are what make LSU great, right? This is,
Yes.
how everyone says everyone is our rival, right? We don't have an arch rival. We have the entire, it's us against the world. And I think that,
Really, the only rival LSU has is sometimes ourselves. Like,
oh yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, like, this is the most ferocious fan base in the country, uh, and I think that is good. And
yes.
and they will throw those torches and pitchforks at almost anything. And if that weren't the case, LSU wouldn't be what it is.
Damn, that's the emotions get so intense that you've seen even the emotion, like fan against fan on Twitter, where they're like arguing about the same thing. They're almost in agreement, but they're like, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, but fuck
and
you
I think that,
anyway. Like, it's
so much of it. Sorry to interrupt, but I think that so much of it on my end is like is also a lot of that emotion, right? It's like, if I could really like, the way I would really explain my mindset here and my approach is that I think LSU is so close to being one of the most dominant programs in the country. And LSU's won a lot of national titles, but they've also gone to a lot of Outback Bowls. And I think that this is a program that has the opportunity, because it has, in my opinion, the best recruiting base in the country. It has a captive top 5 state. It has, an unbelievable tradition. It has some of the flashiest celebrities in the history of college sports. And that goes across decades, right? From Pete Maravich to Shaq to Livy Dunn, Angel Reese, and Odell Beckham Jr. and Joe Burrow. It's got the star power. It's got everything. And I think that the way we're recruiting high school, the way we are hiring coaches, the way we are developing players, if we can just keep up in every aspect of talent acquisition and properly swing our weight around, because I think LSU's weight is truly second to none, then we we may never, like, we could get to a point where we never see Outback Bowls, where we are up there with Ohio State and Georgia and all those schools year after year after year. But you have to keep up because it's a nuclear arms race. It really is. And when you got Ohio State adding Caleb Downs and Quinshon Judkins to yearly top 5 high school classes, when you've got Oregon recruiting at a top 5 level and then adding 2 NFL corners, you know, with a signed check. It's You got to keep up with it, because it is the Wild West, and is a nasty arms race out there. But I think that LSU's immediate potential is so absurdly high, and I think that we are so close to actually hitting the ceiling of the sleeping giant that has been awoken by Saban, that, like, it's so frustrating to be so close and then just, like, not grab these guys that would turn you next year into a national championship contender.
but do you think Brian Kelly doesn't want to do that? That, like, the way he operates, he does not want to just throw money around, even if LSU has the money.
I mean, maybe. I think he doesn't. I think he doesn't want to throw money around recklessly on players that may be terrible fits. I think that's good, because nobody does that. Georgia doesn't do that. Oregon doesn't do that. Texas doesn't even do that. But I but I don't think that Brian Kelly isn't willing to do it, because he's gone after these guys before. And I think that one thing that was actually so encouraging to me was the addition of Austin Thomas, who whipped Ole Miss's collective into organized shape. Which I personally, I think, if my guess on what is going on necessarily would be that I don't think LSU's collective is as organized in terms of identifying and going after talent as some of these other ones are, which is normal. There are a lot of programs like that right now. Alabama is a huge one at the moment, um, and I think that what we saw with Austin Thomas at Ole Miss is that he did that, and he weaponized it. So I think if he can do the same thing here, then, like, everyone's done. Like,
He's going to, and that's what
we're
really.
good.
Here's the thing.
I got to see it first, though.
That's all we needed, is really someone like that, someone to
Yeah.
just unite the money, unite the money behind
Exactly.
LSU football, and say, hey, everyone who's like, I'm a women's basketball donor, I'm a baseball guy. You're like, hey, everybody, I get it. This year, you guys won your chips. Put your money this year behind Brian Kelly. If you do that with football, and we're going into this SEC contract year as well, like, holy shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Get some pieces of the pie here. Like, I get you're gonna have to throw some skin in the game more than we've asked from you before, but look at what the other schools are asking of their donors. Like,
Yeah.
This is Louisiana versus all y'all, motherfucker. Like really, like, step it up. And I understand where you come from with all this, rhetoric.
The thing, it
And I
really comes
think
down to
LSU fans have been too scared to hear this type of stuff because they do not want money to run college football.
Oh, no, I don't either. It's terrible, but it's
It,
reality.
it's where it's gone. It's already gone there, and
Mhm.
it's the players needed to be compensated
For sure.
So once you go there, well, now basically it's an employer situation.
Yeah, and I think that, the entirety of college football is paying the consequences for the NCAA not agreeing to do revenue sharing decades ago when they should have. If they could have agreed to a basic revenue share and put this to bed forever.
Yeah.
But they didn't, and now we're in the Wild West, and the last thing you want to do is have the smaller gun. And I think that LSU is so close to having the biggest gun on the on the scene that, like,
Hey, Max, they didn't call him Big Dick Brian Kelly for nothing. Okay.
no, they didn't. And leaving Notre Dame was such a bold, aggressive, and I think worthwhile move, because at LSU you have the capacity to throw your weight around, take other people's starters off rosters now.
Oh, yeah.
And I just think they got to really do it. And if you put a gun to my head and ask if I think they're going to do it, I think now that they've hired Austin Thomas, I think they will. And I think even if they don't want to and they don't do it, they'll realize eventually they may need to do it. So I have pretty high confidence they get it done. My worry is for next year, though, because with the way that Blake Baker likes to play defense, you need not just good corners, but you need elite corners, because they're going to be on islands very, very, very frequently because they like to blitz. They like to play man. They play more cover zero than almost any college team. So you need dudes there. And if they didn't have Chris Abrams Drain and Ennis Rakestraw, who are both NFL starters, in my opinion, at corner last year, I think this potentially goes very differently. So I think if had LSU hired,
be onto something, because Missouri had a pretty leaky defense at times last season, but then would overcome that.
Yeah, it's
coverage.
It's a very gash or be gash defense. It's very similar to what Brian Flores does from a 10,000-foot view at the NFL level. They blitz, they play man coverage, and if you don't have the dudes to lock down on the outside one-on-one with no help, you're going to get balls thrown over your head. And so what teams will do is they'll just say, we're going to leave 7 in the protection and we're just going to throw go balls on these corners. And your pressures won't get home because they're leaving guys in. And when you can lock them down, you can force the quarterback to hold the ball and you can get him. And that's what Missouri was really able to do. But yeah, they're going to have the occasional leak just because there's an inherent unsoundness to playing like that. And this philosophy views it worth it with all the negatives that they create. Like, you see this a lot in the run game. And I'm actually writing a piece about this now. I'm going to really sit down and write it tonight. But you see disruption over soundness. And a lot of times that creates run throughs, that creates TFLs, that creates, that creates big plays for the defense. But sometimes that ends up with 2 guys in a gap and, the back springs it for 15 yards. It's how they play defense. There are plenty of defenses like this, but if you don't have the pieces on the outside to hold up, you're going to get gashed more than you do the gashing.
Well, I mean, obviously, we're not going to be seeing anything as bad as what Matt House brought out, but
that's
when you do not have depth at defensive tackle, when you do not have at least some standout guys that you say, hey, I'm going to put my hat on him and bet on him to literally go win us a national championship game tomorrow
Exactly.
at corner and at safety. When you don't have those guys, it doesn't matter how like loaded I feel we are at linebacker.
I love the linebacker room as well.
God, it's drooling with depth.
Especially with Baker. I mean, this is so perfect for them too. But yeah, continue.
Well, I'm just feeling like, hey, like yes, no matter how the LSU fan base has kind of interpreted some of your comments, you can read my article that say, hey, they're like, hey, fuck Max Tuscano. I'm gonna go read my guy Lon's stuff, and you might literally read some of the same stuff that you're saying because it's obvious we're lacking talent at defensive tackle. We're lacking talent at some of the back end areas, but it's talent that we could see become developed into superstars. Some guys like Javian Toviano, some guys like Sage Ryan, some guys like Ryan Yates, guys like Jordan Allen, and then defensive tackle. You literally simply just need bodies there, or else you're screwed. And you need high quality guys, or else you're screwed. Like I just feel like defensive tackle, defensive end as well, edge rusher is also a position where if you get another injury, let alone 2 injuries, you're screwed at that position too. So LSU, I feel all over the defensive line. They've got to really pull in everyone they possibly can. But who can they actually go out there and get, Max?
It's tough now because, and this is one of the grave concerns I had, is that they waited to make a lot of their staff changes. I understand that some of these guys weren't available until after the playoff in Bo Davis's case, but like, this is why you don't wait to make staff changes, because you can't miss the first portal window. I think it's one thing that I find to be a somewhat concerning symptom is that they didn't necessarily view the first portal window as non-negotiable. And it's a recruiting window. It's the same as as any other recruiting window. It's the one where a lot of the starters are going to enter, and you can kind of get your best cracks at some serious dudes. So I think, there were a lot of guys I think that were available. I think there are some committed but unsigned guys that they can potentially go after. But look, a lot of these guys are enrolled now, so it's pretty tough. I have no idea who's going to enter in the spring. I think you can do a little bit of tampering, a little bit of legal tampering.
That's what it'll have to be. Like I literally made a video where
I'm
I
a
was
big
like,
fan of it
listen,
from an LSU perspective, by the way. I wrote an article at the end of the season with a bunch of players on other rosters that I wanted. It's just like, here's your wish list. You make a board, you go get them.
well, literally, like I literally just had to say, like I'm not representing LSU in any way by saying this, but LSU would literally have to go just tamper. like there's like I'm just gonna say it straight up. They have to do it. There's no other way that they're going to get the top talent on that.
Yeah,
they have to really dig deep at the bottom of the barrel to get certain guys as it is, and it's going to be guys like graduate transfers from Texas.
Yeah, and look, there are, I actually may write another one for the spring window, guys on other rosters. I want to go, get creative for. But I think there are, it's just, there's not much in the portal right now. And I do think they are going to get pretty creative, but I think that the problem with I sort of wanted to look at like Missouri first and Texas first as obvious places, but like those places are losing a lot. So like their best talent's now going to the league. Like Tavondre Sweat's going to the league. Byron Murphy's going to the league. I like their edge rusher, Baron Sorrell. I think he can play DN for us. I don't know what his situation is as far as whether he wants to leave Texas. But Missouri's best guys are leaving as well, especially Darius Robinson, who just was, I think, voted the best player at the Senior Bowl this week. So, like, their dudes are going to the league, which is tough. But the one thing about college football is that you don't run out of players on smaller school rosters that LSU can go hunt for.
Nope. And that's the thing, is that you're going to be shocked by some of the names we hear, because it's like, well, who the hell is that guy? Or, oh my God, I forgot about that dude. But then and you're going to be some JUCO guys. This is why they hired them. They're going to have to get creative. They're going to have to dig deep. Max, seriously, crazy week for you. Crazy week for you. A lot of vitriol, but you have seemed to really take it in such a great way and just kind of let it go right off your back. And I commend you on that for understanding that is the LSU fan base.
Yeah, it's you cannot have LSU without it, and you wouldn't want it, right? You would never want an LSU that is going to go out and be like Iowa, right?
Dude, that's why it was so hard to watch that defense last year.
Oh,
because we didn't attack. That's LSU defense. You attack.
I mean, it was just it was really rough as a big I'm a big run fit guy. Like I'm a big account for gaps, be sound, all that stuff. And it was just watching guys crash into the same gap, and it was a bummer, especially with Jaden on the other end. I mean, Jaden Daniels should have been a national champion. Like this team should have won the national title. Like let's be straight up about it. This team should have won the national title. But
if it's LSU Michigan in that title game, yes.
If LSU's defense is 50th in the country and they go play Michigan with that offense, they win by 20.
Oh, if we're 80th in the country.
Yeah, I mean 80th makes it close, but you still win.
80th is 25, 27 spots better than we were. I mean, we were just it was like an automatic first down every play, Max. It was just
it was rough.
It was debilitating. But brother, hang in there. And don't let any BS get you down. But Max, also, there are times I can tell you are sneak trolling LSU.
So, that's accurate. Yeah, I mean, come on, you got to have your fun too.
Everybody knows. So be careful. Be careful.
I may not. I don't know. We'll see. But look, it's all love to Tiger Nation. It always is, even if it's frustration at times. But that's how family is, right? They drive you nuts.
Max, you're the man. Definitely want you on here again sometime, hopefully. And you have a good rest of your night, man.
Yeah, you too, man. I had a blast. Love to come back on.
All right, peace, Max. Crap. We hung up on him before he was finished talking. Very controversial figure, Max Tuscano. Very controversial figure among LSU Nation. We just got done talking all of these aspects with him. Yes, Dada. Yes, you're right. Keep talking, buddy. Keep talking. That is one thing we have been worried about here in our household is Sage having a little bit of a speech delay. And so anytime he's doing this, I am very happy. Yes. Hey, buddy. What's up? What's up? What's up? What you got? What you got over there? What you got over there? Your mom would be going crazy to hear you talking this much. He's been very vocal today, so we're very excited about that. What do you all think about this Max Tuscano with his assertions that LSU absolutely need some big time transfers, that LSU have to up their game in the transfer portal, that LSU need to throw that money around, that LSU need to play the big money kind of money ball kind of stuff like you've seen from Georgia. Of course, you've seen from Alabama. Of course, you've seen from, I mean, let's just be honest, every damn school in the country. We just saw a CFP where Washington was in there. I mean, this was Texas. Of course, all the Texas schools, Texas A&M. It was almost like NIL was created for the tech industry and Texas to kind of combine with the oil industry money that's always and will forever be there. So I agreed with Max on a few parts of what he said. I just don't agree on his whole the way he served up with things, with the tone, with things. It's on his tweets. It seemed very disingenuous and kind of going at LSU in a way. And he seems to love when LSU struggles. And he seems to love when LSU has some negativity and some drama around it. And I don't know. He seems like a good guy, and I don't think people should be like, oh, wishing horrible things to him and saying horrible things to him. But if you disagree with what he's saying and you think there's fallacy to what he's saying, call him on his shit. Call him on his shit. We just had a very enlightening conversation where he basically bent the knee, where he kind of stopped being so negative to LSU and really kind of stuck it back with having full faith in what Brian Kelly's doing. So very interesting. I mean, if you were an LSU writer or an LSU media guy who didn't like Brian Kelly, who didn't agree with what he was doing, his methods, his process, that would be interesting. Because how would the fan base take it? Would the fan base read your stuff? You're constantly bitching about Brian Kelly, or maybe not constantly bitching about Brian Kelly, but you're critical of him at most turns. You're saying, what is this guy doing? Why didn't he fire Matt House earlier? Why didn't some of these things? Why isn't he going after more transfers? Why didn't he unite the collective? Why isn't he more new school with some of this stuff? Why is he getting beaten for that recruit? Why blah 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 blah? Well, it would be interesting, and I think Max is kind of finding that out. This is how what happens when you are kind of like willingly going out of your way to make sure everything is a controversy. Everything must be questioned to the bone, where it's like, I question whatever I think is bullshit. I give you my straight up opinion, what I think. Any of my readers know for years, as much as we love LSU, we're also going to tell you the truth just as much. Whether LSU is wrong, right, great, not, champions, bad, poor, whatever's going on, because we love LSU enough that LSU deserves the truth. You deserve the truth as fans of LSU. But there's times where I wonder if it's just a hatred for Brian Kelly's kind of old school way of doing things, or the fact that LSU just do not want to go into those waters where you're throwing around money for every little player, every last guy on the roster. You're 50K, 50 G's. How is that going to work in a locker room? And I know Ohio State are doing that, and I get that Georgia are doing that, and I get that Alabama are doing that. But what does it mean for college football? What does it mean for those kids? You look at how LSU has done it. It's not like they just gave Malik Neighbors the second he was on the roster 100K or whatever. He had to earn that. And as he became Malik Neighbors, even before 2022 season, he was already getting that NIL paycheck. But then he had that first 1,000-yard year going into this last season. He was paid, and he was driving in style. And LSU were throwing around that NIL money. And then you saw him make a lot of money by the time he left LSU in NIL. Jaden Daniels, the same. I mean, how can you question what LSU are doing in NIL when LSU are literally being the focus of a documentary? The Money Game, where basically LSU's athletes, Livy Dunn, Jaden Daniels, are the face of the NIL discussion, the face of the NIL world. I mean, just think of what Joe Burrow would have been worth in the NIL world in 2019. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It would have been out of this world. And LSU have constantly done that. LSU have won championships with different coaches. LSU have had different Heisman winners in the last 5 years. It's like LSU are now having a number one class. LSU have had basically top 10 classes or top 5 classes in the last 4 or 5 years, and it's getting better and better and better as we're climbing here under Brian Kelly. The number one quarterback now signs for LSU. The number one running back, the number one receiver, basically the number one linebacker of 2025, in my opinion, Keelan Moses as well. You can't go wrong with what LSU are doing on the recruiting trail. And then you hire the best defensive line coach in college football when you need him most to maximize the guys on roster. When you need someone to maximize the defensive backs on your roster for man-to-man coverage the most, who do you go get? You go get Corey Raymond. When you need to have these coaches, Kevin Peoples, the edge rushers coach, he's a Broyles Award nominee who could probably go out and be a DC somewhere. And he's going to still come over here and coach the edges for LSU. And then you go get someone like Jake Olson, who's going to be coaching the safeties. That's the one wild card. And he still might be a swimming success at safeties coach, Jake Olson. But I believe this is his first on-field coaching position. Mostly been an analyst at Missouri, and then, of course, 2021 linebackers analyst at LSU under Blake Baker as well. So you've got some big time moves that LSU has made recently. You've got some big waves that LSU has made recently. Now it's time to cash in. Year 3 under Brian Kelly. And it sucks. It is a shame that Jaden Daniels is not a part of it. But you've got a quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier that should be taking you to the cusp of a college football playoff. If you give him even an above average defense, just an average defense with that offensive line, with weapons like Caleb Jackson, I think LSU can really do something special here. Tight end is solved. Mason Taylor, he started to kind of come into his own again at the end of last year. Had a big breakout year 1, but really kind of struggled with injury in year 2. Started looking really good. Had his season high last year in the last game he played against Wisconsin. Mac Markway at tight end as well. Kamorion Pimpton. I mean, they've Trades Green coming in, the 5-star. I mean, this guy might be so physically dominant, Trades Green, that you just have to play this guy just to see what he can do. Just to see, because he's just so good physically. It's like, I think LSU would be foolish not to do this. And this is that season where LSU are going to find out a lot about what the staff is made of and how good some of these guys who are still left over from the 2021 and 2022 class, how good those guys really are. This is the year where everything should come together for Sage Ryan. This is the year where everything should come together for a guy like Chris Hilton Jr. This is the year where everything should come together for, Major Burns has been struggling for years with injuries and now with poor play. Allowed 6 receiving touchdowns last year, according to Pro Football Focus. That's a joke. LSU have what it takes on roster. Okay, but they don't have enough depth at certain spots. And that's what really worries me is defensive tackle. You don't have to hear it from me. There's no depth there. There's no depth there. It is plainly clear for anyone to see. Defensive end edge rusher. You get 1 injury, you're screwed there. You get 2 injuries, you're done there. Like you have to get even more guys there, or else really you're telling me then that you're going to be depending on your freshmen a lot this next season. And Jackson Howard, redshirt freshman, to play a ton of reps, which is fine. He could be fantastic, an NFL bloodliner, Jackson Howard. I think he's actually going to be a damn good player for LSU, in my opinion. I'm just saying, where is the safety net for LSU at some of these spots? Is safety net going to be linebacker and building this whole defense around Harold Perkins in the middle of the field? Greg Penn III, Whit Weeks. I think that trio could solve a lot of LSU's deficiencies in the front and the back end, depending on how you use them. But you have to get bodies in there, and you have to get high-quality guys in there. You have to get a good mixture of both. LSU have to get more as we said in our roster article, that we'll put a link to that in the comments section. I'll respond to some of these comments in just 1 second. We really said just the same like Max said. We have to get more. That's not to say LSU has done a terrible job, like he said, where he said LSU has done such a bad job missing everybody. I mean, like, were we really going to be able to go get Caleb Downs? Were we really going to be able to go get some of these guys? A guy like Caleb Downs is going to come play at Baton Rouge, where he actually has to really compete for a job. No, he's going to somewhere like Ohio State, where he's just going to be guaranteed a job. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could feel that in the air tonight, to quote our guy Phil Collins. You know, Phil Collins kind of just looks and sings like an oversized baby. It's kind of weird. Like, it's so weird. Anyway, we'll go through some of these comments. Someone, Jamie, aka Jamer, our friend, says Launer. What's up, Jamie? Always watching. She's such a damn good friend. Shaw says, just jointing in. Is that what you're doing, Shaw? He said, just jointing in. What you doing there, my man? He says, what's the word on winter workouts? Well, we're going to also post that link for that article there in the comment section as well, because we are hearing some good stuff about Will Campbell. Will Campbell is basically going to be, at least, if not, he's probably going to be the leader of this team. I'm just going to say it right now. He's going to be the leader of this team. Garrett Nussmeier might be like leading the team through some inspirational moments on the field and providing inspirational moments for LSU on the field. But Will Campbell, he's going to be leading this team. Like, this guy is going to be kind of the heart and soul of this team. And you're seeing it in the winter workouts early. He is fired up. He's got something. He went through some stuff this offseason. He lost a really close friend and cousin, someone who's like beyond family. Like, they were like a brother, second brother for him. And he lost that friend and that cousin. And he was devastated. But I think it has lit a fire in him that he is just dedicating this season and this what he's going to do, all the work he's going to put into it. He's dedicating it to that higher purpose, to that friend that he's lost. And I think that's going to make Will Campbell just an absolute savage. And really, if this is his last season at LSU, he's going to cap it in a very special way. I doubt it will be. I bet he's going to play at least 4 seasons at LSU. That's my pick, is he's going to play 4 years at LSU. But, hey, if he leaves after year 3, he's going to be a top 5 pick. He is just an absolute dog, an absolute seal of the deal. Will Campbell. And you also saw photos of Colin Hurley, freshman quarterback, cut his hair. He chopped it off. Colin Hurley chopped it off. Let's put that on the screen. Oh, my God. He chopped it off. You remember his locks, right? We don't have to show you the locks, do we? Yeah, let's show you the locks. Colin Hurley used to have the most stunning locks you could just imagine. Just these voluptuous, huge locks. Nah, that doesn't really capture it. Where's a good photo? Just these long, just puffy, huge locks. We've written so many articles about Colin Hurley, and we've done at least 5 interviews with the kid. My God. A lot of interviews, a lot of talking with him. Colin Hurley's a great dude. And great dude. He's 16. He's still so young, Colin Hurley. Let's get the other one. Got to see his hair here. There's the hair before. There's the hair after. Boom, boom, boom. Before, after. It's a shame. But he's all business right now, all business. And yeah, it's cool to see a different side of Colin Hurley cutting the hair off like that. I love it. I'm down with it. I'm cool with it. But with the winter workouts, you're seeing, I don't know if you saw who the SWAT leaders are, but you've got groups of guys like, West Weeks is a SWAT leader, Garrett Dellinger is a SWAT leader, Emory Jones, Harold Perkins, Greg Penn III. You've seen a lot of different guys made SWAT team leaders, but some surprises there as well. Will Campbell, of course, SWAT leader, and Garrett Nussmeyer, of course, SWAT leader. Major Burns, of course, is SWAT leader. It's Jacobian Guillory, SWAT leader as well. We've got the full list here. West Weeks, SWAT leader as well. I'm not sure if we mentioned it. Savion Jones, they're going to try and kind of balance his weight a little bit more. They're kind of worried about some of the readiness of some of their defensive linemen, and they kind of want to physically try and quicken their progress physically. Caleb Jackson is just someone who is going to have a great year this next year. I really got to say, I have a feeling that Caleb Jackson is going to be a stunner for LSU this year. You just get a vibe where it's like he was so damn good for LSU last year. Had we needed him to rush the ball every single play, he probably would have had an incredible 1,000-yard season last year. But he was buried on the depth chart past a few people, but still had a really, really awesome season, catching the ball in the passing game and rushing the ball, making plays in both sides of the game. So, but yeah. Anyone have any questions or anything? Any questions, any comments? Post them right in there. Ooh, now it might be too dark. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that enlightening, crazy quasi-debate / discussion with Max Tuscano. I thought that was interesting because Max had some good points. And I think he sounded a lot better than maybe his tweets advertised him. I think he was also trying to save some face in front of the fan base as well and save his ass a little bit more since his job is writing for LSU, covering LSU. And the Valley Shook don't want to be having someone on their staff that the fan base actively doesn't want to read. I mean, I'm sure there are some of the people who watch our show, who subscribe to our channel, who subscribe to our site, who do not want to watch this content today, do not want to watch this show today because we had Tuscano on. I am sure there are some who are saying, what are you doing having Tuscano on? Think I'm nuts. I wanted to prove a point that I think there are times we get a little crazy. And that I think Max actually said it beautiful. That it's the ferocity of the fan base, and it's like we'll eat each other up as well. And you've seen that with factions and stuff like that. and everyone from Louisiana knows what I'm talking about. But, and I also think, you know, Sherman shouldn't be so offended and just shouldn't even respond to someone like that. You know, like, shouldn't even go that low to respond to someone like that. Like, he shouldn't even go there. That's just my opinion. Sherman has a Super Bowl championship, has a shout out from a Heisman winner. Like, he can do whatever he wants. But I just wouldn't have even responded to that. Like, yeah, you're going to rip on LSU when we just did this on the trail. Like, your work speaks for itself, Sherman. You're fine. Like, you don't have to make excuses or explain yourself to Max Tuscano. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my viewpoint. And I think sometimes there's kind of a militaristic vibe with the LSU fan base of toe the line. You know, this is the narrative where it's all about development this season and development. Well, you better believe if some of these players aren't developed under, you know, Bo Davis, Corey Raymond, and don't hit their potential, hit their peak, there's going to be a lot of questions. But then, you know, there could be the same excuses of, well, these guys couldn't develop because they just couldn't. They weren't good enough. Give us time to get these guys in. You know, so there's always that chance that you can say there's excuses, you know. But when I see patterns continue, I'll say something. Sorry, my son got a little scared there. Jamer says, I miss Collins' locks, but hair doesn't make the player. We got a great one in that young man. Well, you know, here's the thing, Jamer. If it was Shelton Sampson and he had that long hair and he cut it, I would be worried. If it was Shelton Sampson and he cut his long hair, I would be terrified right now. But his name is Colin Hurley, not Colin Sampson. So we're good. We're good on that one. So, yeah, I agree with you. The hair does not make the player. Which transfer will make the most impact in 2024? I want you to answer that question for me. And that's the thing is, I don't even know if many of you guys can even name some of the transfers LSU got. Because to be honest with you, when I wrote this recent roster overview article, I had to look up to make sure that I had named them all off the top of my head. And I missed one of them. I missed one of the guys that came in. Okay, I missed Xavion Thomas. LSU's roster, their transfer portal haul this offseason has not been. Picking my nose there, itching my nose. Their roster haul, their transfer portal haul has not been very impressive from a roster management perspective. It hasn't. Let's just say it like it is. We did not get the Caleb Downs of the college football world. You know, we did not get these big time corners, these big time DBs, these big time D linemen that we needed. Walter Nolan, you know, would have been tailor made perfect to come to LSU right now. But it's not completely over yet, and do not count Bo Davis out. Do not count Corey Raymond out. We got these guys in this position with Frank Wilson for a reason, okay? Do not sleep on these guys. Do not doubt these guys. Do not question every little damn move that a guy like Frank Wilson, a guy like Corey Raymond, and a guy like Bo Davis make. Cortez Hankton, they've proven themselves. And I understand last year was last year, but look at what would have happened if we would have just had a 75th ranked defense. LSU lose one game at most, make the college football playoff. We played for an SEC championship in year one. We beat Alabama, Auburn on the road, Florida on the road, Mississippi State on the road, beat a top 10 Ole Miss team, and did it coming from behind 17 points and then beat the shit out of them. So, all I have to say is if you are questioning Brian Kelly's staff so much to the point that you are dismissing all that they have done and how historically ahead of the pace and how they have already accomplished in 2 seasons what a lot of staffs could only dream about doing, even in the SEC in a decade, then I'm not going to really take your opinion too seriously, because you have to also pay some respect to what they've built. Got a Heisman winner, a guy who should have won the Biletnikoff in year one. Broyles Award finalist as an offensive coordinator, Broyles Award nominee defensive coordinator in year one. I mean, that's some serious. And so I feel like, yes, LSU fans got a little overprotected with Max Tuscano, but I get why. Because we have seen this staff kick ass and take names this last few months. And it's about the guys on that roster right now. Yes, there's probably going to be a name or two that are going to come in that might be the right veteran at the right time, the right leader at the right time. But the guys who are going to decide whether LSU wins a championship or not are already on that roster. That's who we've got. There's guys who can beef it up, who can take it up a notch, but there's not going to be anyone who's going to define the team like who we already have. So, buckle up. 2024 is going to be that year. The year to prove it or lose it. Show it and grow it. Defy and justify. That is the only reason why. Everybody, have a hell of a Friday. We have some interesting articles and a few exclusive interviews that we've been working on that going to be coming when you least expect it. And we'll be with some interesting guests that I think might blow your mind a little bit. We are very excited. They're blowing our mind. Get ready. Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend. We'll be seeing you on LSUOdyssey.com, where we're going to be posting even more updates about what LSU are doing the recruiting trail. We've got some stuff for subscribers. Good Lord, how can people say that word? We've got a bunch of shit coming for some subscribers. We've got a lot of other stuff. We'll put some for free stuff. We'll have a few profiles that are for free, but we've got to pay a huge, amount of respect and tribute to our huge influx of new subscribers here. Let me read you off the list. We, in the last month, in closing, have had a crazy amount of subscribers. R.W. Doucette, he's re-upped. He's been a subscriber for a few years now. Brandon Cox, KPB7554, TBW851, Todd Boudreau, L Fielding 6, Don Cannon, Weeks DW55, purchased the year-round badass packages, both of them did. Kelly Creations, Shane Duncan, Jeffrey Bond, Kathy Boyett, W. Lemaire, R. Florick, Coldwick, Brad Odoms, Delonike. There are so many names, so many people. I cannot thank you enough. Christopher Bodian, Cam, Holland Dyer, Casey Omega purchased the Be Around Badass package as well. TBW 51. Oh yeah, we already read that one. The list goes on and on and on and on. And so many of you, I cannot express my thanks and gratitude enough for you believing in what we do. We are going to try and just keep upping our game and keep delivering the weirdest, the best, the most innovative, the most next level, and just kind of the most real content you could possibly get anywhere on the internet for LSU. Stuff that is going to just blow your mind. I mean, we have tried to interview as many wide-ranging Tigers and as my wide-ranging Tiger personalities or people around LSU as possible. We just had Max Tuscano, who kind of became public enemy number one for LSU Twitter in the last week, and actually got him on the show to defend his place, defend his tweets, and it was quite an interesting and pleasant conversation with Max, and I hope you enjoyed it. Very interesting stuff. Everybody, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the new subscribers, and thank you so much to ReleafMed, always sponsoring us, presented by ReleafMed. Get your relief today at ReleafMed.com, Louisiana's #1 gatekeeper for medical cannabis relief. Everybody, follow us on X, on Twitter, right there at Lon Phillips. Subscribe there on LSUOdyssey.com/subscribe. Everybody, also, one last thing. Don't view the site through the Spaces app through Wix or any app by Wix. That is not authorized. That is not something LSU Odyssey can customize and make it viewable to how we intended. If you want to view our work how it should be intended, instead of some second-rate BS on Wix app, go to LSUOdyssey.com, the actual site, LSUOdyssey.com. That is the only place that you can see our stuff how it is intended, in the format it is intended. Anywhere else has not been formatted by us and does not represent our actual work. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a good rest of your day. Go Tigers.